Shalom, sisters. I want to talk to my sisters today, woman to woman. Whether you're old or young, I want to talk directly to you. I feel the need to talk to my sisters because I feel kind of heavy. Today I felt very heavy for some reason, and I felt compelled to do this video. We, as the daughters of Zion, have lost our way. And it seems like it's very difficult to find our way back. There is so much pulling on each and every one of us, from the least to the greatest, from the educated to the uneducated, those who think they have status and those who don't. It doesn't matter what background we come from, sisters, we have lost our way. And we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to get to the bottom as to the reasons why we have lost our way. I'm sitting here, and I will be the first to say that I am not perfect. I don't want anyone to think that I feel like I have it all together, because I do not. You know, the scripture talks about all of us having sinned. You know, there is none perfect. No one can say that they have not sinned. And so I don't want to come across as someone who is judging or beating up on the sisters, because trust me, I will be the first to tell you that I know our sisters get beat up on a lot. They do. But there are some things that need to be addressed. There are definitely some things that need to be addressed. Definitely some things that need to be addressed. Our sisters, we have to understand our position in the family. And I see a lot of sisters who reach out to me, and their position is one of uncertainty. Many of them don't have a man in the house, and so they feel a sense of loneliness and sadness and insecurity. I mean, I can give you a whole list of things that our sisters are feeling, a whole list of things. And when I look at the world around us, what I see is everyone, the black man, other races. I mean, you have everybody, even other sisters, just putting the hammer down on our sisters, and we have no idea the effect that's having on these young women and on the older women too. I mean, it's not just the young women. That's why I said I'm talking woman to my young sisters and my older sisters. But everyone is putting the hammer down on the sisters and not realizing the damage that they are doing. I watched a video where a young woman who seemed to be high on some type of drug, she just dropped her child in the middle of the street. Now, many will just fly off the handle and call her every name in the book. I see something else at work here. I see the destruction of the black family strongly at work. And instead of us collectively trying to find solutions to what's ailing the black community, we all lash out in verbal violence against one another. And with our young sisters, I want to say something to the young sisters really quick. Our young sisters are pretty much being led by the streets, by their peers, by their circumstances. Everything around them is telling them to be a certain way. No positive influences are encouraging them to be the right way. A good friend of mine said this to me, and I really had a chance to ponder on this for a moment. I had some students come here a few years ago, and you know, I had a lot of questions as to why things were the way they were in their lives. And a good friend of mine, she just happens to be a professor of psychology, and she said that the reason the children are acting out this way is because the mother is in survival mode. She can't tend to their needs because she has needs of her own. Now, this was a psychologist breaking it down for me, Okay? Now, basically, I had to chew on that for a moment. I had to chew on that, and I realized what she was saying. Some of our sisters, especially our single mothers, are so distraught. And it's not just a matter of looking for love. You know, so many people think that these women, all they want is to satisfy their flesh. No, there's a feeling of incompleteness in their houses. Most of them don't have the Most High in their lives. So without either head, without having a husband as a head, not having a father, many of them don't have fathers in their lives, and not having the Most High in their lives, you have to understand what is going on. That young woman is basically headed for some type of ruin. Even if she is able to attain to some type of financial victory, as some of you may call it, there is still a ruin. There's a void there that has not been filled. Fatherless, husbandless, godless. And I'm using the term godless because that's what everyone is familiar with. So that's a shipwreck, you all. And instead of most of us trying for a moment to put ourselves in those shoes, what we do is we lay the hammer down on her. And if she has 2 or more children, 2 or more dads, or 1 or more dads with those children, the hammer comes down even harder. Now, I am in no way trying to justify any wrong that any sister does. I'm trying to make a point here. Maybe if we collectively start to consider ourselves as family, because we are. Did you all know that? Did you all know that we are all family? If we started to look at each other that way, maybe we wouldn't do the things that we're doing, okay? I'm going to try my best not to talk about the men too much in this, because this is a woman-to-woman conversation that I'm trying to have here. I do want the sisters to take a step back and look at yourselves, because there does come a point in time where you have to be responsible for yourself and your own actions. If you find yourself in a certain situation where you have not a husband, you don't have the Most High in your life, you didn't have your father in your life, the pity party has got to end. Okay? Especially if you have children. If you have children, you have to understand that you have been granted a privilege. Okay? I don't care how that child got here. The child is here. It's time to get busy. Too many of our young women are throwing the kids off to the side, not tending to the children, and so the children are just growing up wayward. Okay? Now, this is the one part that I do have to mention the brothers on. Brothers have to understand that these women did not make these babies alone. They didn't do it. Someone's sperm was used to make this baby. And I doubt very seriously if any of these sisters went and had any type of in vitro to get that baby in their womb. There was a physical action attached to that. Now, you brothers have to take responsibility for at least that much. And stop laying the hammer down on the woman, because the Most High looks at the brothers. When you make a seed or you produce a child, you are responsible for that child. And the Most High says, you are an infidel if you don't take care of your children. So, now back to the sisters. You sisters, when you get that responsibility, no matter how it comes, if you take it on, you have to handle your business, because these children are depending on you. These children are depending on you for so much, and all too often, I am seeing things that I just don't like, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to address my sisters, both old and young. A lot of our sisters have this attitude. Notice I said a lot, because not all of us have this attitude. But a lot of sisters have this attitude, this strong attitude, this disrespectful, defiant attitude. And somehow you believe that that attitude is going to get something accomplished. All it's going to do is further add to the hammer that is coming down on most of us. It causes everyone around us to look at us, and therefore we've been stigmatized with the angry black woman syndrome. I don't like that term per se, because we do have a right to be mad as hell in this country. As a matter of fact, there was a very famous celebrity, I can't recall his name, but he says any black person who's living in America who's not mad as hell, I can't remember the second part of the quote, but it had something to do with them not really having all their scruples. If you can sit up in this country and not be mad. Because there are some things that have happened to us in this country, but we have to rise above certain things. Now, I'm not saying that we need to overlook things, move past things in the sense of forgetting about them or ignoring them. What I am saying is, if you plan on living and raising children, if you don't plan on laying down and just dying, you have work to do. As a mother, you have work to do, okay? Your children need to be nurtured. One thing I don't like is to hear a mother use the excuse of being tired of her own children as the reason why she's going to shuffle them off to the public education system, or as Pastor Dow calls it, the public fool system. A lot of our people, I hear this so many times, I don't understand that thinking at all. First of all, if you understand that educating your children is going to be to your benefit too, if you can get that much through your mind, through your head, then you can see the importance. Dr. Ben Carson, I don't know if you all are familiar with his story, but you need to take a look at his story. His mother did not make excuses. She herself wasn't an educated woman, and she made that known. If I'm correct, I don't believe she could even read. But the one thing that she really forced on her children was to read, to learn, to educate, turn the TV off. But unfortunately, most of our young mothers, and some of our old mothers too, use the television, use the gaming systems, use pacifiers to get your children off of your back. You don't see to it that they're handling their business. Some of our children, they come home from the public fool system and they hand you paper with grades on it. And you assume because they have an A that they're smart. And you'll even tell people, my children are smart. And I'm not saying they aren't. What I am saying is, because you're not checking into anything, you assume that your fifth grader is doing fifth grade work. There was one young man, I believe he was either from Ohio or Chicago. He came home and he told his mom about his frustration. He says, Mom, I'm in the fifth grade and I got the same homework as my little sister who's in the second grade. This stuff is too easy. What you all don't understand is our children want to be challenged. So they need us to pick ourselves up out of this muck and mire that we're in. We need to get ourselves together and be strong for them. Now, if you don't have a headship in your house by way of a man, such as your father or a husband, you need to get close to the Most High. You need to get to know the Most High, because it's very important in this day and time that we get a hold of our children. You know, I think about my young son, my oldest son. He's 17. And he talks to some of the young people in the hood here. And, you know, he likes to share things with us that they talk about and that they deal with, issues that they're dealing with. And some interesting things or topics came up. And it just kind of made me say that our young people are lost because their parents are not investing in them in any way, because they themselves are in survival mode. So they can't deal with the issues of their children. That's not a good thing. Anyway, my son he's a fairly handsome young man, and one of the young ladies in the neighborhood, she told another young person that I would date him only if he were to get a diamond-studded earring in his ear, get a car, and get some different shoes. So basically everything material. Now I'm talking about a young girl here, a young sister. everything material is what she wants attached to this handsome young man who is going to be someday a good candidate as a husband to someone. But everything superficial was more important. Oh, he's cute and I would date him if. Now, my son's response, he didn't say it directly to the young lady because he didn't want to hurt her feelings, but he did send the message back through the person that told him what she said. He said, well, tell her, why don't she marry the earrings, the shoes, and the car, and don't worry about me. That's what my son said in response to her choices, or her decision not to be with him because he doesn't have these things, you know. And so someone needs to teach our young women how to be women and not little girls. I think that she's of the age to where she should know better on how to be as a young woman. But I can't necessarily blame her, because there is a mother in her life, and there are other women in her life who are not teaching her. So it goes back to you again, sisters. You have a job to do. You have to pull yourself up out of this stupor. And I do know that it's easier said than done, because so many of my sisters are hurting. And I realize this. I definitely realize this. And I wish more of us had a love and a concern for our sisters, to where we can embrace them and show them that they are loved and that there is help available to them. But too many of us are taking on that role of hammer. Too many of us have assigned ourselves as the hammer to beat her head in and to make her feel every ounce of her sins. And I say to you, as Yahshua said, he that is without sin cast the first stone. At that moment, everyone who had stones should be dropping them, because there is no one who can say that they are without sin. Again, I will sit here and I will tell you that I don't claim to be perfect, but I do want to talk to my sisters and to address the older women, even those that are older than me. I'm only 40, so I'm not that old. But I have seen older women who have taken on this haughty role, this role of a fake false dominion over young women when they don't have a right to. Now, there are those who have that right because you have earned that place by being an example. But if you are an older woman and you out here twerking your behind, and you're out here running the streets trying to find you a man you hot in the pants too, and you 50, 60 years old, I'm sorry, you don't have anything to say to the young women, because you are just going to further the downfall. You're going to further the destruction of the black family. Women have to step back and take a look at their role in the destruction of the black family. I do want to say this. Just because you're a single mother, don't use that as a crutch or a tool to say, I can't do it by myself, so however my children turn out, I can't help it. It's not my fault. I'm a single mother. Nothing I can do. Don't do that. I've seen lots of single mothers who raised their children so profoundly that you would not know there wasn't a father in the house. Now, that is not to say that a father isn't needed. The point I'm trying to make is that shouldn't be an excuse. Now, that goes back to shuffling the responsibility off to everyone else. And what we've done here in America, we've done exactly that. Our young women, our young men, mothers and fathers, you have shuffled the responsibility of raising your children off to someone else. And if I can just go with me for a minute and hear what I'm trying to say, okay? First of all, I got to talk about this public school system, because a lot of you have no idea the role that it plays in the destruction of the lives of your children. Many of you feel obligated to send your children there because, first of all, you want them out of your house for a few hours. So basically, you want a babysitter. I've heard parents say they don't have time to educate their own children. I've heard parents say, well, I don't know how to teach them. I've heard so many excuses, or me and her or me and him keep bumping heads, and she won't listen, he won't listen. So what are you trying to tell me? After school, do he listen? So basically you're saying 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, he can take that not listening and give it to somebody else. And I'll just deal with the portion that I deal with when they come home. But then in most cases, most parents kick them out the door. As soon as they come home, drop the book bags down. Mama, can I go outside and play? Yeah, boy, go on and get out of here. Yeah, girl, get on out of here. No curfew, nothing. That child knows that you don't care what they do, which is why they get into so much trouble, because they know. When we first moved to this town, we've always been very proactive parents. Before we moved here, my daughter had a book club in Michigan, and the participation level was off the charts. And somehow she believed that when we moved here, that she would get the same response, that the young people would be knocking her door down to be a part of her book club. Not so. Not one person was interested. So we tried a number of other things. We went to the library and we had a spelling contest, and we made the award $200. We were like sure that a lot of young people would be like, okay, I can be a part of the spelling bee and try to win that $200. Well, the first week we had our children, and we had 2 black children and 3 white children show up. The first white student that showed up, her mother took one look at us and turned around. She took the papers. She looked at us, turned around, and walked out the door, and we didn't see her no more, okay? The second 2 white students, their parents brought them every week. Now, the one black student came back twice, and the other one, that was their last time coming to the program. So basically, it ended up just being my children and 2 young white boys. And we had an awesome time. They made some friends. The children were very nice. Their parents were very nice. It was an awesome experience. Even when it was over, the family wanted to keep in touch. One of the young men looked at his mom and said, "Mom, are we ever going to see them again?" And I just thought that was so adorable that we were able to come together and do that. But the participation from the black community was just awful. Just awful. When we talked to some of the churches, everyone was saying, yeah, we're going to send our young people, yeah, we're going to do this. They want to win that $200, but it just wasn't enough there. But when a hip hop, I think his name was Mr. Dale, he's a holy hip hopper. When he came to town, boy, all of the butt shaking, rump shaking, all of that stuff, they had the Pontotoc up there on jam when Mr. Dale came to town with his hip hop. So it's kind of amazing to me when it comes to education, we are just tuned out completely. And we need to start tuning in. Parents, we need to start getting involved. Mothers, please don't use the excuse of not knowing certain things. It don't take but a moment for you to give your child a book and see to it that they are reading the book. You know, sometimes I'm in there at the stove cooking, and if my children are doing work, they'll ask me, "Mom, is this a good sentence?" Depending on what they're doing, is this a good sentence? Can I use this one? How do you spell this word? And I'm like, sound it out, and I, go over all that little, education, that mom education stuff with them while I'm cooking. There are no excuses, okay? And black women have, I think, racked up a lot of excuses. And a lot of black men are looking at a segment of the black female population and judging all of us according to that. Now, if you want to be someone who's going to be looked at as a potential spouse, there is more to it than keeping yourself pretty, wrapping your hair, cooking a good meal. That man is also going to pay attention to how you're raising your children. A lot of things they're going to pay attention to. They're going to pay attention to how you're keeping your house. There are so many things that need to be tended to. And also, you need to find yourself lost in the Most High. When I say lost in the Most High, I can't think of the saying, but I'm going to try to paraphrase it. You should be so wrapped up in the Most High that a man has to go through him to find you. That's the way it should be. But when you're too wrapped up in yourself, wrapped up in your hair and your nails, wrapped up in a bunch of nonsense, it's very hard for anyone to take you serious. Okay? I think we need to start going back to natural, going back to the natural way of doing things, raising our children the natural way. Stop leaning so much on, how can I put this, on this failed system here in America. Stop leaning so much on that system to help you raise your children. Stop shuffling your children off to someone else because you don't want the responsibility. If you don't want the responsibility of children, keep your legs closed. Stop having them, okay? Because you are only harming them, and you're harming yourself. Now, again, I know you're not doing it alone. There is a man involved in the creation of that child. And these men have walked away from their responsibility, okay? So I'm not going to really talk about the men. I've said that before, because I want to reach my sisters. I want to reach the young sister who's out here in the streets, who feels that if she dresses like a little tramp, okay? I don't mean to be offensive, but the scripture calls it a harlot. If you're dressing like a harlot, you are not going to get anything worthwhile, okay? And for you moms who are allowing your daughter is 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and she have her pants on so tight that they look like a piece of skin. And then for you women yourselves who are walking around with pants on so tight that you can see every crevice. And you all know what I'm talking about. I don't mean to sound gross in any way, but I just want you all to understand what you are doing to yourselves. Okay? A lot of times I see young women and I want to cry sometimes because I see young people who are void of love. There are a lot of loveless black households. A lot of young people are growing up. No one has ever told them that they love them. And that really bothers me on so many levels. I remember Tupac. He received an embrace from Maya Angelou, and they said that young man cried like a baby in her arms. He cried like a baby in her arms because he had never felt that before. So that tells you that even the hardest, hardcore young man needs love. And when our children don't get that, don't think for one moment that because they act hardcore out here that they don't want an embrace, that they don't want someone to tell them that they love them. They want that. And some of them act hard because they've never felt that, so they don't know how to love. But trust me, they want it. They want to feel that. And if everyone is laying the hammer down on our children, okay, woman, young woman and old woman, if someone is laying the hammer down on you, you know how that feels. Why would you in turn inflict that same treachery onto the heads of your children? Now, I'm not saying that children shouldn't be disciplined. What I'm saying is there are some parents saying and doing some awful things to their children. You are without excuse. Find your place in the black community. Be a positive influence. You don't have to be out here strung out on drugs, alcoholic, just wallowing in self-pity, your children following suit after you, and then we see you on the news crying, weeping, and wailing because someone shot your child, because you decided that they didn't need a curfew, that they can come home when they get ready to, because you don't have the time to sit and lecture them and tell them why it's important that they get an education, that they learn how to be self-sufficient. I'm sure Ben Carson's mom didn't know everything, but she did all that she could. And all I'm saying to you, young woman, old woman, middle-aged woman, we need to find our place. If you find yourself in certain situations and you need help, you should seek help. There are those who are in relationships, they are married, and they find themselves in situations where the husband is not a believer or the husband is abusive. Our sisters need to be able to depend on us. And right now we are so divided as a people, which was done intentionally. I can't stress that enough. We are so divided as a people that we cannot help one another. And the only solution to that, if we are divided and helpless, then if we start to have a little bit of cohesion, we will no longer be helpless. You know, there's a saying that says there is strength in numbers. You can apply that in so many areas of your life and you would find that the results are just phenomenal. But many of us are not applying these things. We just go from day to day thinking that things are going to straighten themselves out at some point. We're thinking that if we wallow enough, if we complain enough, if we cry enough, that the situation will fix itself. Well, get this, young woman, old woman, middle-aged woman, get this. There are some things that the Most High is going to let you continue to go through and experience until you come to grips with what you're supposed to be doing. Getting down on your knees, you have to do that. You have to pray. Through every last situation, you have got to come before the Most High day and night, throughout the day. Sometimes when I'm walking around out in the garden, I'm talking to the Most High. I don't care what you're doing, if you're driving, if you're cooking, if you're going from one room to the other, you need to have a conversation with the Most High. He hears. You know, He hears our moans. He hears our groans. He hears the meditations of our heart. And a lot of us don't have certain things in our lives because we don't have a relationship with the Most High. We somehow think we can circumvent Him and get to the blessings. Well, it does not work that way. And my family learned that many, many years ago. We learned that the Most High has a permissive will too. Him. Okay? So we made a decision before we moved here, almost 8 years ago. We said, Father, we do not want any parts of your permissive will. We want to be in your divine will. Only your divine will, no more permissive will. So as a result, things that the Most High don't want in our lives, He don't allow it. Things that He does want, He will allow it. And I thank Him for that. I thank Him for not allowing me or my husband or my children to make decisions or steps that were out of His will. I want to be in His will. Every last one of us should seek to be in His will. Ask Him to work in us, both to will and to do of His good pleasure. Young woman, if you want to be blessed. Old woman, if you want to be blessed. Seek to be in the Most High's will. You have to lay aside every weight and every sin that doeth so easily beset us. Drop the excuses. Stop looking for a man, okay? Don't look for a man. Because don't you know that the scripture says when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing, okay? Realize that you are a good thing. You are a good thing. So seek to be that. Seek to be found. Don't go out seeking. Don't put yourself on the market. And what I mean by that, a lot of women think if they parade themselves around on Facebook or on YouTube or various other social networks trying to present their qualifications, that they will be picked. Sometimes you will be picked, sisters, but sometimes the one doing the picking might not be the one the Most High wants for you. So if you just kind of like sit back in His will, in the Most High's will, sit back and rest in His will. Seek to please Him. He will have that husband for you. Okay? I think I'm going to end it right there. I'm sure at some point I will talk again to my sisters because there is so much that can be said. Again, I wasn't trying to come down as a hammer on you because I know everyone else is already doing that, especially our brothers. But at some point, I'm going to have to be a little bit more straightforward. You know, the whole cry aloud and spare not scripture. I am going to have to be a little more straightforward because there are some errors in our ways that need to be addressed and corrected by the Most High. Notice I said corrected by the Most High, not by me. But the Most High puts it on some of our hearts to speak to our young people, to speak to our women, to speak to our men. He puts it on our hearts to speak, okay? And that's what I'm doing. But the correction will come from the Most High. And I guess it's fortunate for us that sometimes his correction is harsh. Because he says he chastised those whom he loves. So if you feel like the Most High is hammering on you, that's a good chastisement. Take it and grow from it. But if the world continues to hammer on you, you need to take a self-evaluation and see what it is you're doing that's out of place. It might be something as simple as, take no offense to this, it might be something as simple as being you taking the weave out of your hair and being more real. It could be something as simple as toning it down a bit, stop being so loud as a woman. It could be something as simple as dressing modestly. These things are important. A man doesn't want a woman who's dressed like a harlot or a whore. You need to cover yourself up. You need to act like a woman. And you need to accept rebuke. The problem with a lot of our women is we don't want anyone saying anything to us. Now, I don't mean anyone disrespecting you because there's a lot of that going on. All of these brothers who are coming at you with all of this nonsense and their closets are full of skeletons, they are in error too, and they need to be taught and need to be chastised as well. But if someone comes to you in the spirit of meekness and tells you about yourself, young woman, old woman, middle-aged woman, you need to take that because you are going to bring the judgment or the chastisement of the Most High on you if you continue in the path of rebellion, the path of stubbornness. You have to do your part. If you can humble yourselves, if you can just learn what it means to be humble. I don't mean be a pushover. That's not what I mean. Learn what it means to be humble. See where that will take you. I guarantee you things will start to change in your lives. Start to take on that role of mother and stop shuffling off your responsibility to other people. I love you, my sisters, and I want you to have a blessed and peaceful day.